And joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 2, Darren Jacoby. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. Also this evening, visitors will be laying wreaths at the base of the Pool of Reflection. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families, friends, and Australians could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today marks the 75th anniversary of the sailing of the first contingent from the 2nd Australian Imperial Force from Sydney to the Middle East on the 10th of January 1940. This departure marked the beginning of Australia's commitment to play an active role in the Second World War, fighting alongside Britain and the Commonwealth to defeat Nazi Germany. Having boarded passenger liners that had not been fully converted into troop ships on the previous morning, thousands of Sydneysiders waved and cheered as these soldiers from the 6th Division began to embark for overseas service. During the morning of the 10th, the troop convoy with a protective screen of Australian and British warships steamed out of Sydney Harbour and headed south. Later that afternoon, the convoy was joined from ships carrying the first troops from New Zealand. The convoy continued to Port Phillip Bay in Victoria and then Fremantle, Western Australia, before sailing for their final destination, the training camps of Egypt and Palestine. Many of those on board would not see Australia again for 2 years. Some, such as Sergeant Vincent Daniel McQuillan, DCM, never returned. McQuillan died in Libya on the 29th of January 1941, serving with the 6th Division Cavalry Regiment. Vincent Mac McQuillan was born on the 20th of September 1916 in Brisbane, Queensland, the third son of William and Mary McQuillan. He was educated at St Agatha's School in Clayfield and later attended St Columban's College. After school, he went on to become a public servant, working with the Land and Income Tax Department. He also served in the militia, serving for 5 years with the 11th Field Artillery Brigade. 2 months after the Second World War broke out, McQuillan enlisted in the AIF. The 23-year-old was posted to the 6th Division Reconnaissance Regiment on its formation and had been promoted to sergeant by the month's end. In January 1940, the regiment, along with most of the 6th Division, sailed for the Middle East, arriving in Egypt in mid-February. The Australians immediately moved to Palestine, where the regiment, now the 6th Division Cavalry Regiment, trained using universal machine gun carriers and later Vickers light tanks. In August, McQuillan attended the Royal Armoured Corps Signal School for a fortnight. At the end of the year, the regiment moved into the Western Desert, joining British and Commonwealth forces ready for a major offensive against the Italians who had invaded Egypt from Libya. 2 days after the opening of the offensive, on the 11th of December, the regiment became the first AIF unit to go into action where one of its squadron fought a sharp action against the Italians, holding Garn El Grain and Fort Madalena. By the 21st of December, British forces had captured Sidi Barrani and the desert was now open for an advance into Libya. The Australian 6th Division led the way. On the 3rd of January 1941, the division attacked the Italian fortress of Bardia. During the ensuing battle, McQuillan attacked an Italian outpost and captured some 60 Italians at the point of his pistol. For this action, he was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal. Tobruk was captured a fortnight later, and the regiment then led the advance towards Derna. But on the 27th of January, McQuillan's troop was ambushed by the Italians. McQuillan's carrier hit a mine, which broke his arm and mortally wounded his driver. More cavalrymen were killed when the wounded in the fighting, were killed and wounded in the fighting that followed. McQuillan and 3 others were taken prisoner by the Italians, who took McQuillan to a hospital, but he died from his wounds 2 days later. He was 24 years old. Mac, his commander, later wrote, was at all times at the forefront of the battle. He led his troop with the greatest skill, determination, resolution and courage. He was without doubt an outstanding leader of men. McQuillan is buried in the Benghazi War Cemetery in Libya. His name is also listed on the roll of honour to my left, along with the names of some 40,000 other Australians who died fighting in the Second World War. And his photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of courage and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Vincent Daniel McQuillan and all those Australians who have given their lives in the service of our nation.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very pleasant evening. Thank you.